I am hereby calling the monthly board business meeting of the New York State Board of Parole to order. It is 1:08 p.m. on Monday, May 28th, 2018. I would like to begin with a call of the roll, and Commissioner Drake, if you would start us off, please.
Titus Drake, Commissioner, present.
Commissioner Alexander, here.
Eric Berliner, Commissioner, present.
Tana Agostini, Commissioner, present.
Kathy Piley, Council to the Board, present.
Tina Stanford, Chairwoman to the Board, present.
Otis Cruz, Commissioner, present.
Rocio Villa, Executive Assistant to the Board, present.
Lorraine Morris, Administrative Assistant, present.
Patrick Bailey, Public Information, present.
Thank you. And on our videographer for the day is?
Peter Rajat.
Very nice to meet you, Mr. Rajat, and thank you for recording our meeting today. And again, welcome to our guests visiting us at this month's board business meeting. We did pass out the minutes of April 23rd, 2018, but given our roll call, we do not have a quorum, and thus we cannot vote on those minutes, but I still invite you to review them, and if you see anything of concern that needs to be changed in any way or corrected, please send us an email to the central office, and we will make those corrections in advance of our next monthly board business meeting in June. For our old business, I will just go through the training that is left that we've already discussed in prior board business meetings. We still have a victim impact training coming up at the end of this month, specifically Thursday, May 31st. And that's going to be followed by a college program training on June 7th. Anybody like to say anything about the training that we've had since our last board business meeting? I think at that time we had not yet had the time computation training, and if I'm not mistaken, we might not have, I think we did have the trauma. No, we hadn't had the trauma training yet either, because they were both after our last meeting. Anybody want to say anything about those trainings? Anything particularly you got out of them, or whether or not you think it's a good idea to continue to do similar trainings for the board in the future? Any comments at all?
I would just like to say I think the trainings are invaluable, and I do hope that we continue them. I think with the time computation, the presenter is really quite an expert. I think we're fortunate to have him answer questions and explain the process, so I definitely hope we continue those. Thank you.
In fact, our colleagues that work with our Bureau of Adjudication, the administrative law judges, also known as hearing officers, that the board has designated to hear the cases of alleged parole revocation, parole violations. They heard about the training, the time computation training, and now they're going to have their own training. So that's an opportunity to ask questions of the same experts. So it was good training, and clearly it's needed. We have been, some of our subcommittees have been meeting. In fact, by conference call or email, we have been in discussions, several of us in subcommittee, since our last board business meeting. And I'd like to give two members who are present. One is a co-chair, I think both are co-chairs of those committees that are present, reflected here, who have had some preliminary work done. I'd like to give them an opportunity to share what they've been working on and what their next steps are. So if you would, I'll start with Commissioner Berliner.
Sure. The research subcommittee has met, I think it's 3 times now. I could be wrong about the number. Commissioner Shapiro very much regrets not being here to provide this update herself. We've spoken with the DOC's research office and are reviewing one proposal from the outside for research, and we have some comments to send back to them to hopefully strengthen that proposal a little bit. One of the things that we've discussed amongst ourselves and have decided is imperative is that these are opportunities for the board to provide some input to researchers seeking to do research within the DOC's environment, and therefore perhaps they could include questions that we would want answered while doing so. And so if there are questions that you all have as you think about the business that we are in, by all means forward them to myself or to Commissioner Shapiro. And we can therefore include them. And also, as we're thinking about questions that we want to ask the DOC's research office, we could always just compile a list of questions the board has that may not require some outside entity to be involved with. So I would encourage you to think about those kinds of questions and let us know as you get them.
Thank you, Commissioner. Now, Commissioner Drake, you sent some information recently. You want to share what your thoughts are in terms of moving the Special Populations Subcommittee?
Well, yes. We have a couple of goals in terms of assisting or at least getting a better understanding of the processes with special populations. Just to be specific, inmates that are in the RMUs and trying to decrease the barriers to their release due to medical issues. They're having trouble with release and finding appropriate housing. So those are some of the things that we wish to be able to bring to the table for everyone to have a conversation about and then move forward. We're also taking a look at OMH and possibly obtaining a training. I would like to thank Commissioner Cruz. That there is some overlap, I believe, in a lot of this. And we had a conversation about some of the concerns with OMH and leveling and assessment criteria. So it will be helpful for the Board of Parole, the members, to be able to understand the processes by which that leveling happens. Even if they come in with PSIs that speak to a history of significant mental health concerns, but being leveled at a 6-week and then seeing some of this stuff play out during the boards, we're having a challenge with those levelings. So I think it'll be helpful for the board to understand and have some questions for OMH so that we can try to assist in a different way that'll assist the inmates with these challenges. That's about it. Those are the two main goals, and that's what we'll be starting on, and hopefully we'll have a conference call soon on that.
Now, we also have other co-chairs present here today among the members gathered. If you want to give a report or not, it's up to you. I know I didn't give you any advance warning, but if you want to say something about your committees, you're welcome to as members or co-chairs. Anything further?
Well, I could add, in terms of the legislative subcommittee, that we've been doing a lot of reading lately. We've not been able to have an in-person meeting. We're actually working on scheduling another in-person committee meeting that I hope will happen soon. But there's been a number of pieces of legislation that have been advanced by the upper and lower houses that we're reading through, regulation that we're reading through. So at this point, we're preparing, basically, for our next gathering, doing much of the reading of the relevant legislation in advance. Thank you.
Anybody have anything else?
Training, we haven't gotten that far, but we have, because we've been getting such excellent training without a training committee, but we think that it might be a good idea to have some back to basics kind of training. We've identified rescission, we've identified decision-making and writing in view of the new regulations. We've identified parole violators, that specific interview, And I know that Commissioner Smith had one more item which escapes me right now.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything else? Anyone else want to add?
Okay, as a member of Bridge the Gap, we've had some conversation around some ideas that we would like to sort of thrash through, get the rest of the board's opinion, and also just sort of codify what we're saying and expect it to accomplish in looking at some of these things. Some of them are protocols for DVDs that we often get DVDs to listen to in preparation for an interview, and they come in various forms. We've had news broadcasts, family memorabilia, and we've had straightaway statements, and they are of varied length. They've been up to an hour or less. Or, what's the format for those so that we could best see it, utilize our time, and so forth. We've talked a little bit about voter registration for individuals who are still on parole, and that the governor has, sanctioned that process, that they can in fact vote. How do we help prepare them? How do we alert them? Is it a part of the general questioning that parole officers afford individuals during their interview? They usually ask them, are you keeping your curfew, or are you taking your medications? Did you register to vote? It can go as simple as that. And to help them with the process if one expressed interest. To piggyback on the OMH concerns that were raised, and the recommendation that training would probably give us a better understanding of how they come to their leveling, I think it would also give OMH a better understanding of how we function. It's amazing how we talk to individuals or departments that interface with us, and they really don't know how we do what we do, and we probably have some questions as well. So the exchange is one that I welcome, and I think that the group is beginning to talk about how valuable it would be in the work that we do.
Thank you. Thank you for that report on the Bridge of the Gap Subcommittee and for all the reports given today. As I mentioned at our April meeting, we are in the midst of really trying to finalize completing our electronic folders for our upcoming accreditation. And Rocio and I will be reaching out again to ask for copies of documentation that would satisfy our expected practices in during the time periods that we still need some examples. So please be on the lookout for that. And I'm hoping we'll send those out. We'll start sending those out on maybe Fridays before board weeks, so that it'll give you some time to open up your emails, see what we're looking for, maybe make a note of it so that if you see something that fits the bill, you can have staff make a copy of it and bring it and send it to central office for our accreditation purposes. In terms of new business, an item that was new last month was I had asked for everyone to give me an update on their mileage with your plate number included. If you haven't had a chance to do that, please do that for me this month. It'd be greatly appreciated. We are in the process of trying to distribute registration stickers that have come in, placards that have come in. There may be some that we're missing, so just bear with us. Please be patient, and we will try to get those to you as soon as we can in the most secure way possible. Ideally, when you come through the central office for your boards, but we may be able to get them to you sooner. At this point, I want to move forward into correspondence, announcements, and invitations, if there's no other new business that anyone would like to bring up during the public portion. Okay. We did get a thank you note from our council, Kathy Kiley, and I'll just read the note. Dear Chair and the board, thank you so much for the beautiful gift basket that you sent to me. It was very thoughtful of you and extremely generous. I shared it with staff. They appreciated it too. Kindest regards, Kathy Kiley. And we gave Kathy a basket because she's been working so hard. When you come through Albany, I know you know, she's there when you get there, she's there when you leave. She stays as late as the board stays, and many times later, dealing with litigation, questions from public information, the appeals themselves, helping to work on updates to regulations that we are trying to busy ourselves with updating, and so many other things. And so we just wanted her to know how much we appreciate her and recognize her good efforts and those of her staff. And she sent us a thank you note in return. As all of you know, we did lose one of our senior board members on May 2nd of this year, 2018, and in response to the public announcement of that loss, we got a card and a lot of prayers from people throughout the state and up and down, and from former Board of Parole staff people. And this one came from Henry, also known as Hank Lemons. Dear Chairwoman Stanford and the Parole Board family, I was sad to hear of the passing of Commissioner Sally Thompson. Please know you have my deepest condolences and heartfelt sympathy. I worked with Sally for nearly 5 years with the board. She was always very professional, compassionate, and kind. I can still see her glowing smile. I send my prayers to you and the board. May God be with you all. And that's former Commissioner Henry Lemons. And in recognition of the passing of our colleague, I did want to share her obituary. Sally Antonia Velasquez Thompson, May 23rd, 1959 to May 2nd, 2018. Sally Antonia Velasquez Thompson was born on May 23, 1958 in Harlem, New York, to the late Carmen and Charles Velasquez. She was one of 6 children, Rose, Alice, Charles, Anthony, and Robert, who is deceased. Sally attended John F. Kennedy High School, where she excelled at her academics. After high school, Sally attended John Jay College of Criminal Justice in 1992 and received a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and sociology. Sally worked at the Marriott Hotel and Alexander's department store before joining the New York City Police Department in 1983. For 20 years, Sally worked in the Narcotics and Major Crimes Case Division. Sally excelled as a police officer, earning the rank of second-grade detective in 1993, where she continuously investigated violent crimes. Before retiring in 2003, Sally was one of thousands of brave men and women who risked their lives and health responding to 9/11. Sally was a member of the Fraternal Order of Police and Detectives Endowment Association. Sally could not stay retired long, and shortly after retirement, she worked as a substitute teacher in the Putnam Valley School District before being confirmed by the Senate as a member of the New York State Board of Parole on July 14, 2007. After completing her first term, Sally was nominated again by Governor Andrew M. Cuomo for reappointment, where she was again confirmed for another full 6-year term. Between 2007 and 2018, Sally served the State Board of Parole with distinction, compassion, and wisdom. During her tenure, she traveled thousands of miles within the state, made thousands of decisions, met with hundreds of victims, and interviewed many noteworthy individuals. Sally Thompson married Kenny Thompson of Bronx, New York in 1987. Sally always shared that Kenny, a fellow police officer, was first attracted to her car, a 1981 BMW 320i, which she always kept in top condition. Together they had 2 children, Kenny Jr., and Kiana. Sally and Kenny resided in Parkchester, New York, before buying their first home in another location in New York State. They finally settled in another location in New York State. However, Sally's heart always remained in Harlem. Sally was a fighter, having beat cancer 2 years earlier. The Lord called her home on May 2nd, 2018. Sally was a practicing Catholic and attended Mass each and every Sunday. She liked to cook and travel, but her biggest devotion was to her family. Sally truly spent her entire professional career servicing the people of the state of New York. She will be remembered as a strong Puerto Rican woman who grew up in New York City. Sally leaves to cherish her memories, her husband of more than 30 years, Kenny Thompson, 2 children, Kenny Thompson Jr. and Kiana Thompson, 2 sisters, Alice and Rose, 2 brothers, Anthony and Charlie, 2 sisters-in-law, Constance and Lisa, her beloved uncle Albert Webby, also known as Webby, and a host of cousins, nephews, nieces, and other relatives and dear friends. And I would include in that colleagues, to the extent that we may not yet have been dear friends. And the family says, words of thanks seem so inadequate for all the kindness that has been bestowed upon our family. We thank you for the encouraging visits, the comforting calls, the loving cards, the beautiful floral arrangements, and the sincere words of solace. We are finding strength in knowing that earth has no sorrow that heaven cannot heal. May God bless you abundantly for blessing us, the Thompson and Velasquez family. And the arrangements were beautiful. Commissioner Drake, who was on vacation at the time, was able to attend. I know all of you were working and could not attend, and I expressed that you would have been there if you wished, if you could have. The floral wreath that the board bought was lovely, and it was part of a lovely display during the calling hours. The thing that struck me during the calling hours is the family gave people an opportunity to share remembrances of her in the evening. And women who were detectives with her spoke, and they were also pretty. I mean, and Sally was a beautiful woman, as you know. I'm thinking these fly young detectives, I mean, they were all beautiful. And so, and even as older women, really beautiful women, and had wonderful stories to share about their years with her and the friendships that they formed, and the close connection between the families over the year. One guy married one detective, and Kenny married Sally. That's how close these people were. And then the church, the Mass at St. Raymond's, it was beautiful, beautiful Catholic church in the Bronx. The officiate, the priest who came and gave remarks at the calling hours also did the Mass, and it was lovely. And former people were present, former board members, and former board chair, my predecessor, was present for the Mass. So she will be greatly missed, and I'm just glad that we had the time that we had with her. She was an excellent woman and professional. All right, I don't have any other announcements. Does anyone else have any announcements or news they wish to share? All right, and with that, it is 1:31 p.m., and I would entertain a motion to adjourn our board business meeting for May at the conclusion of executive session to discuss matters with our council that are exempt from open meetings law. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? Second. Okay. So moved by Commissioner Alexander, seconded by both Commissioners Berliner and Drake, and we are in executive session. Thank you all.